So Abraham said to Lot, "Please let there be no strife between you and between me and my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brethren." You know, just like a puzzle missing a piece. You ever put together a puzzle and you got in one of them 1,000 or 1,500 piece puzzles and you got right down to the end and there's a piece missing? The puzzle's not complete, is it? You don't frame a puzzle like that and put it on the wall with one piece missing. You know, there's the piece is missing. But well, just like that, the puzzle in our life is missing when we miss the peace that God passes for each one of us and cares for each one of us. Living without the peace of God is like living in an unfinished room. You have, no sheetrock on the wall, no pictures on the wall. Everything's unfinished. Nothing is done. And there's all this work that needs to be done but isn't to make it complete. Someone once said there's peace in every storm. And while that may very well be the case, peace is something that we need whether there's a storm or whether there's quietness or whatever it might be. On 7 p.m., August the 14th, 1945, President Harry S. Truman formally announced the unconditional surrender of all Japanese forces anywhere on the globe. The official documents weren't signed until sometime later. I believe it was in September. They were signed on board the battleship USS Missouri. But peace had come to the world. The major powers in that war radically shaped the globe. Every person on the globe, every nation, everybody on the globe had been touched in some way or another by the war and the atrocities thereof, or the fighting thereof, or whatever it might be. Some 80 million people, in some degree or another, to some point or another, had come to lose their life during the time that the World War II was being fought. But wasn't it a joyous and a spontaneous celebration that erupted the world over when peace in their time had finally arose? The thing most wanted by so many in the world was finally a reality, at least for a little while, at least for a few moments, at least for a little bit of time. When we think about peace, typically our minds go to conflict, or the absence thereof of conflict, to the ending of wars and battles and skirmishes and different things of that sort. Sometimes it's the fighting and the unrest has come to an end, and to us that we think of that as peace, and that's usually the first place our mind goes. But other times in our lives, sometimes we think of the peace of mind that we have in this country, or because of certain things. The attitude of calmness that comes over us at the end of the day, or different things of that sort. Sometimes it's just knowing that something's good, or that something's secure, or that someone is safe. Something will be okay. Things will work out. Peace is something all reasonable people long for and want in their lives at just about every point in their life. It's what I want and what we need, but we don't always realize it each and every day. And we are incredibly good at ruining the peace that does exist in our lives. We are incredibly proficient at being able to destroy peace at the drop of a hat for no reason at all, just to destroy it. The world that we live in is such a rapidly changing world that is filled with turmoil and hate and evil and conflict. We have so many voices and things that are clamoring for this and for that, and to accomplish this and to go here and to go there. And so many different people are, and everyone who has a nose has an opinion about this or that or something else. How can we ever see or know peace, if even just for a little while, much less for a lifetime? It cannot be the reality based on the reality of our own lives. We cannot be dependent upon ourselves to bring peace, for we're not able to do that. We're not good at doing that. We oftentimes fail at doing that. So the answer is no. And when defined so narrowly as the absence of conflict or an attitude of calm and quiet, it makes it even more difficult to understand what peace is. And so when the Bible talks about peace and peace that passes understanding, what is it talking about? What does it mean? God's peace is far outweighs the peace that we have ever known or ever will know. So let's look at 3 points and then we'll be done. What is peace? Why is peace important? And how do we find peace? Well, first, what is peace? Well, we're going to go back into the Old Testament for a little bit. I know it's technical and that type of thing, but it's necessary for us to understand what we're talking about when we talk about peace. The biblical concept of peace is far more than just lack of hostility. Now, you've probably heard the main Jewish word for peace. It's shalom. That's the main word, and we hear it from time to time. People use it, whether they're Jewish or not, from time to time. But that particular word means a completeness, a soundness, a wholeness. So when they talk about shalom, we oftentimes think that, well, they usually wishing me peace. No, he's wishing me a completeness, a soundness, and a wholeness in my life. That's what he's, and that is peace. In its verb form, it means to be complete or to be sound. The idea of living a fulfilled and meaningful life. Purpose in life has been fulfilled in some way or another. If you look at it in the noun form, it's a wholeness of life. Things are going well. Things are doing well today, and so we have a fullness of a wholeness of life. The right relationship or a harmony with other people exists. We might also note that with God, the peace offering renewed this covenant between man and God. The offering that was given as a means of peace was to bring and to restore a fullness, a wholeness, a completeness to the relationship between the Jewish worshiper and God. It's also used as a common greeting like farewell or goodbye or glad to see you or adios or any number of other goodbyes that we sometimes use. But what it means when we say it is, may life be filled with health and prosperity and victory is what that word means. Safety is a part of it. In the New Testament, the word or the Greek word most often used to peace is a word that neither one of us can pronounce, so I'll just give it a stab and we'll just let it go at that. Eirene, E-I-R-E-N-E is the Greek word in the English spelling. In the New Testament, the usage of that particular word kind of overlaps the same similar meaning of shalom, the completeness, the fullness, the soundness, the wholeness. But not quite all that. Shalom is a far broader range of those meaning than that, but it does incorporate that. Peace is seen to be something originating from God as well. Biblical concept has it originating from God. In Judges chapter 6 and verse 24, Gideon built an altar there to the Lord and called it, "The Lord is Peace." You know, we oftentimes talk about the Lord being love or or something along those. Well, the Lord is peace as well. He defines peace. He is the very epitome and definition of peace. Paul would continue that in Romans chapter 15. Now the God of peace be with you all. The God of peace, as he closes his letter to the church at Rome. May the God of peace be with you all. First century was a time when many people didn't have much peace. The vast majority of people were being put upon by all manners of things. Not only by forces from the outside, but forces from the inside as well. And while the vast majority of the population was relatively poor, a few lower middle class, but mostly poor, they certainly were being walked upon all the time. And peace wasn't a thing on their list that they knew about. God's greatest sense of peace is found in the Old Testament. We think of the Old and the New Testament. We think of the patriarchal age and the Mosaical age and the age of Jesus and the New Testament times. The Old Testament talks about the peace that epitomizes God. And it was in anticipation of the coming Messiah. Look at Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 6 and following. For unto us a child is born. Unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulders, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And the increase of his government and the peace of his life will never end. Micah chapter 5 and verse 4, he shall stand and feed his flock in the strength, and this one shall be peace. Peace is to be found in Jesus Christ the Lord. Peace is to be high on the list of Christians and what Christians are trying to achieve in their life. Additionally, God does not randomly grant peace on people any way that he wants to. He just doesn't walk down and say, okay, you can have peace, but you get turmoil. And no, you can have peace, but you got to worry. No, God doesn't do it that way. The way we have peace is by accepting the Prince of Peace, the Son of God, who is peace incarnate. Accepting the life of Jesus Christ. The life that Jesus Christ himself exhibited while he walked the face of this earth. And it is that very life that caused him to end his life upon the tree, being crucified for the sins of you and me. Peace is getting a whole lot more complicated now, isn't it? The understanding of peace that Jesus Christ affords is very complex, and one that we will never be able to fully satisfy in this message, but may look at it from time to time as we go on. Peace is so important that it's one of the greatest needs of mankind. Anybody ever just say, or everybody hear anybody say, I just like to have a little bit of peace, just a little bit of peace. Peace is far more than the absence of conflict, though. The reasons why we need to become clearer on this is that it's not just, we're not fighting and fussing with somebody else. We're not engaged in a war with somebody else. We're not doing this or that or something else to try to give. Peace is far more complicated than that. Yes, the world around us is broken. Sin is the reason for that. Sin is the reason for the brokenness. Genesis chapter 3. Sin was introduced into the world and has gained its foothold in the lives of every human being. Although it's often downplayed and redefined and dismissed, sin is the very real thief that exists in our life. And it is that sin that keeps us from having peace in our life. The more we sin, the less peace we'll have, because the further from God we become. Sin destroys relationships between people. It destroys the environment. It destroys the relationship between God and mankind. Sin does nothing but destroy. When we decide we want to have our own way and go our own way, regardless of what God has to say, we are destroying our life, and we'll never have peace. We are separated from God by sin. Behold, the Lord's hand is not short that it cannot save, nor is it his ear heavy that he cannot hear. But your iniquities have separated you from God. Your sins have hidden his face from you, so that he will not hear. Hell is not full of people who God has turned his back upon. Hell is full of people who has turned their back on God. Hell is full of people who have turned their back on God. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. We all sin. You, me, all of us sin. None of us are perfect, and none of us should ever claim to be. Because the world and people in it are broken, we need God's peace to complete us, to make us whole, to put that piece of the puzzle back in our life that's missing. The peace can be found. As the Old Testament predicted and the New Testament confirmed, God's peace would ultimately be mandated by the Messiah, by Jesus Christ the Lord, by the Prince of Peace, the Son of God. Establish it in our life. He is that missing piece in your life, in our lives. And without that missing piece, we will never be complete. Luke 2 and verse 14, glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace and goodwill towards men. That's what God wishes for you, for me. He wishes peace and goodwill towards everyone. Acts 10 and verse 36, the word which God sent to the children of Israel, preaching peace through Jesus Christ the Lord. He is the Lord of all. Peace through Jesus Christ the Lord. Through his death, through his cruel, inhumane, horrible death upon the cross, he brought peace into the world. Because he overcame sin. He overcame the prince of darkness. He has, if you wish to put it on a very common level, he has beat the devil. For he made him who knew no sin to be sin for us, that we might become the righteousness of God. 2 Corinthians 5, verse 21. Ephesians 2 and verse 14. For he himself is our peace. Who's he? Jesus Christ, the one who died upon the cross. He himself is our peace, who has made both one and has broken down that middle wall of separation. Get down to verse 17. And he came and he preached peace to you who were far off and to those who were near. Jesus Christ came into the world and preached peace. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Master, what's the greatest commandment? Could it possibly be? What are all these commandments that we have? And they had books full of commandments. The 10 Commandments. What's the greatest commandment? Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, and soul. And the second is like unto it. Love thy neighbor as thyself. We cannot love God and hate our neighbor. We cannot love God and abuse our neighbor. We cannot love God and the peace that God affords to us and not wish peace on our neighbor. We need to live in a world where we want for peace to exist throughout mankind, because it's only available through the gospel of Jesus Christ and continued faithfulness to the covenant. Romans chapter 5 and verse 1. Therefore, having been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. The peace that we enjoy, what peace we might have, we enjoy it because of the relationship in Jesus Christ, because of our faith in God. That's why I said earlier on, if we're not willing to have faith, if we're not willing to obey Jesus Christ the Lord, we'll have no peace in this world. Husbands and wives will fight and fuss. Children will quarrel. People in this world will be out to gain what they can and sinning by thieving and stealing and all those things that mankind does to have his way. Nations will fight one with another because what they lack is faith and obedience in Jesus Christ the Lord. The peace is primarily spiritual, but it's not only spiritual. There needs to be a physical peace between us. There is peace in the heart and a change to take place in our minds and our lives. Philippians chapter 4 and verse 4. Rejoice in the Lord always. And again I say rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to all men. Let all people know our gentleness. It's expected that we be people of peace. A passage that Art read to you this morning. But the fruit of the Spirit is love and joy and peace. It's not just love. It's not just joy. But it's peace. It's wholeness. It's a fullness. It's a completeness. It is putting us together as God intended. You contrast that with the works of the flesh. Adultery and fornication and uncleanness and lewdness and idolatry and sorcery and hatred and contentions, jealousy and outbursts of wrath, selfish ambitions, dissension, heresies, envy, murder, drunkenness, revelries, and all that stuff. That looks nothing like Jesus Christ, like Christianity. We live out the proclamation of peace, if it's possible. Romans chapter 12. If it is possible, as much as depends upon you, live peaceably with all men. Many people have gone to great extremes to be able to live peaceably with other people. So that peace can be generated. Finally, my brethren, Paul would say to this church of Corinth in the latter part of chapter 13. Finally, brethren, farewell. Become complete. Be of good comfort. Be of one mind. Live in peace. The God of love and peace will be with you. As we look at ourselves, are we generators of peace? Is the conflict that exists in this world today something that can be benefited by someone generating peace? The areas of conflict through God's peace could be complete, could be whole, could be put back together. The peace could be put in and not missing anymore. Matthew 5 and verse 9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. The world desperately needs peace, and peace is available and freely given in Jesus Christ the Lord. Jesus was the coming herald of peace in the world, the defeater of sin and anguish and pain and all of those things. But there's a lot of work to be done. How hard do we work for peace? How hard, how serious do we take peace? How committed are we to achieve peace in our world? Perhaps the peace that we achieve in the world is just peace between a husband and a wife, or a brother or sister, or a friend or co-worker. That peace that we achieve in them may very well flourish and grow and become peaceful in other ways as well. But nonetheless, we have achieved peace. To many people, Jesus Christ is a stranger. People have no idea who he is. They listen to the world and think that he's all kinds of different things, but seldom do they realize that he is the Son of God, the bringer of peace, the establishment of love and forgiveness, the one to be followed. Seldom do they know he's just a stranger knocking on the door. Will you let him in? Will you let him in to hear what he has to say? Will you let him in to confess that he is the Christ, the Son of God? Act upon that belief and ask for forgiveness of sins and commit your life to live in Jesus Christ, beginning first by being baptized and then by remaining faithful. Is he a stranger? Is he at your door? As we stand and sing, we invite you to come.